What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Make Every Second Count Live. With me, your award winning international Make Every Second Count speaker. Now, each and every time I say that, I am so very pumped up, and it's just like excitement running through my veins, and it's weird. I actually love it. So we are already experiencing some technical difficulties, so bear with us tonight, and I hope everything gets sorted out right and it turns out awesome, because I know this guy is amazing in his own right. So I ask you guys if you would please share this episode out. Invite other people to watch this episode. Heck, just tag them in the comments. I don't mind. And then also, don't forget to subscribe. And then also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, the hearts, frowny faces, cry faces. Heck, you can even get mad at us. I don't mind. Just help us track the algorithm on one or any of the social media platforms that we're on. And then I ask you if you would please keep the comments coming. We want to make more of a conversation, or we want to have more of a conversation with you than just make a presentation. But with no further ado, I would like to bring to the stage tonight's guest of honor. Hey, Stuart, how are you doing? We're back to the blank screen, and you you messed up your audio messed up when you said hi. So
Okay, can you hear me any better now?
yes, I can hear you. Still can't see you, but no problem. I'll just put your picture up there. No, I won't. I won't.
Thank you.
But so if you would like to go through a short introduction, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and where you live, because that's not the same thing. And then also, what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Stuart Miller, and if you pay attention to my accent enough, you can tell that I originated, born and raised in Scotland, and moved here to the States with my family in 2002.
So we've been experiencing some technical difficulties. You died out there for a minute, Stuart.
I apologize, and hopefully, I'm not going to trip your audience up too much here. But anyway, I was saying, born and raised in Scotland, now living just south of Minneapolis. Arrived here with my family in 2002. So, been here in the States for about 24 years, so almost
Wow.
quarter of a century. But the accent is still here and the attitude is still here. I'm still very much a proud Scot, even if I'm an American citizen.
That's awesome. So I have to say, welcome to America, even though it's been 24 years.
Thank you. I never
But
get tired of it.
it's pretty cool that you came here. Why did you come here? May I ask?
And I know that it's cutting out a little bit here, but absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. I moved here to continue working in my career in healthcare and more specifically healthcare technology. Originally trained as a nurse and had a 10-year career as a nurse, nurse manager, and hospital manager. And then I moved over to work in the technology vendor space. And I've been doing that for approximately the last 30 years.
That's awesome. I have to say, I like that word too. I say awesome quite a bit. So you'll have to bear with me on that. But I need to say hello to a few people here. We have Believe in Yourself in the comments. We have Adam in the comments, and we also have Ben Bruce in the comments. I believe my dad is watching, but while you might be having technical difficulties, I might be having technical difficulties too, because it's not pulling up right on my phone either. So it's weird. And then I want to say hi to Robert Brooker, and I hope you guys are all having a good night. And don't forget to hit that like button and keep the comments coming. If they're good, I'll read them. If not, I won't read them. So I I know personally, like from my own life. You see, when I was 17, I went through a severe car accident. I was spent 2.5 months in a coma and 3.5 in the hospital. I was told I wouldn't walk again, but I am now, and I do every day. And I am so, so, so happy about that. But if I had taken pity on myself, if I had listened to what other people told me, then I wouldn't be where I am today. But instead, I decided to grow through and not go through what I was going through. So, has there been anything in your life that you have had to grow through?
There's been lots of things, I think, across the time. I grew up in a very kind of blue collar environment in Scotland. I was fortunate enough to have a relationship with my mother, but she raised me and my siblings as single parents. Born. But through that, I kind of sort of rose up and used my own drive to sort of rise up, find a career, find a purpose in my life, and on from there. And I think there's been other adversities, but I think the one that brings us here tonight is the kind of health challenges that developed in 2020. And then led to the kind of most significant event of my life in the spring of 2023.
Wow. So, can I ask what happened in the spring of 2023?
Well, I'll take you back to the kind of early part of 2020, which
Oh,
most of the world remembers because
I
we were
didn't
going
know
through the
we were
middle of
time traveling tonight.
it. But we went through the oh no, I have COVID. And I went to the emergency department in Nashville at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And of course, they thought the same thing. And then they ruled that out quickly with the test. And so I said, admitted me and started treating me for the breathlessness. And it turned out they diagnosed me after about a week of various tests and ruling out different things. They diagnosed me with something called interstitial lung disease, which basically is an inflammatory disease process that exists in the area of your lungs where the oxygen and carbon dioxide transfer happens.
Wow.
So all of those that tissue was basically inflamed and angry, and it was causing me to not be able to exchange oxygen, hence the breathlessness.
Wow. That's nuts. So, how, all right, I know physically how it made you feel because you were out of breath and you couldn't catch your breath, but mentally, how did that make you feel?
Um, I just saw it as a challenge. Okay, I've been in healthcare all this time. Here's an opportunity for me to experience that and to overcome the challenges that I was facing. And I did. I started to recover. I started to adjust to that life. Initially, I was dependent on oxygen, but I got myself to a point whereby I was not dependent on oxygen moving around. And returned to all intents and purposes to a normal life. And in the December of 2022, I celebrated my 60th birthday, and my wife and I took a transatlantic cruise. We took a journey
Yeah.
morning. I get up and walked around the ship, and I was climbing.
Hmm. Hmm. So, you are still having some issues, Stuart. You keep dropping in and out, and you've been off for a few minutes now. So, sorry guys, I apologize about the technical issues, but things happen, I guess, and we will suffice. He just dropped off, so hopefully he comes back in just a minute. So, first of all, I want to say that my thoughts are with the people of Iran. Um, I don't want to get involved in that at all because I don't do politics. This show doesn't do politics. Make every second count doesn't do politics. So it's just I I just want be to think of the people because the people are having to deal with this at the moment, and it's not fun for anybody to have to deal with this kind of stuff. So I just want to say that I'm there with the people. I don't care about how anybody feels or about anything like that. I'm just saying I'm here for the people. So hopefully Stuart pops back on here in a minute. If not, I don't know. But so on Friday, I am giving a talk at the University of Dayton for the fourth annual Dayton Brain Health Collective Symposium. And I'm really excited about that. It's going to be so fun. I'm doing the the 5 truths, how to recover, or the 5 truths for recovery after a acquired brain injury. I'm not sure what time right now, but it won't be till the afternoon. Um, it's it won't be streamed. It will not be something that anyone can have to watch or anything like that. It's just for the audience there at the symposium. And I am extremely excited about that. Stuart's back now. There, he's on video too. We can see Stuart.
Jeff, I sincerely apologize to your audience.
Hey, it is completely fine. We understand tech issues happen to everyone, and I cannot blame you for that.
Well,
So,
I moved to my work office, and I'm using my setup there. So
all right.
hopefully this will be a little bit better because it's directly connected to the network router. So
Well, that is really cool. I'm glad to hear that. And if you would like to excuse me, if you would like to jump back into your story, you were telling about 2020 when you thought you came down with COVID.
Yes. So I was admitted, and I recovered, and I think I don't know, Jeff. I was telling the story about my 60th birthday and making the trip across the Atlantic in a brand new cruise ship from Rome to New York City, and that was my wife and I's
Wow,
celebration. And
that's nice,
we came through that, and I thought life was continuing on. I was recovering. I was doing well. Yes, I would always have this disease. However, I ended up in a situation whereby in March of 2023, I suddenly became very acutely ill again. And it became obvious that I needed EMS transfer. I needed an ambulance transfer to the medical center. Went there thinking, again, this is just an acute encounter and they would treat me and I would get better. And instead, after 5 days of being in the medical ICU, attached to breathing machines and very high flow oxygen, very huge amounts of oxygen being flowed into me, they stood at the bottom of my bed and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, we can't save your lungs. You have 15% viable lung tissue left, not function, lung tissue left,
wow.
because of the inflammation. It had very rapidly cascaded, and we're going to have to list you for a lung transplant." And I just not something I'd never even contemplated at that point.
Wow. That is crazy. So how that had to affect your mental mindset in some way, shape, or form. Am I right?
You are. I mean, this might sound odd to people, but I became very acutely depressed in that moment. I just went in a pit like I'd never been before. I had no family around me. It was still early in the morning. And I felt lower than I ever had. And mostly it was because I've always been the provider to my family, to my wife, and to be there for my kids, to support them. My adult son has health issues and he's dependent on us. And so not only did I feel that acute feeling of sadness for me, it wasn't me, it was what's going to happen to them. And Jeff, I swear to you, it lasted 2 hours. And 2 hours later, I said, okay, there has to be a plan to get through this. They mentioned lung transplant. What do I know about lung transplant? Where do I go? So I did what I do with a lot of situations. I jumped on my iPad that I had and I started researching everything, trying to learn. So I jumped from that very, very deep hole almost instantaneously to, okay, how do we fight through this? How do we get through this? There has to be a positive outcome. And I've always approached adversity that way in my life, that even if I feel down for whatever period of time it may be, it would be, okay, so what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
How am I going to deal with that? What do I need to understand to help me get past this? And that's how I've always approached any adversity, whether it be work, personal, or anything else.
Yeah. Well, we have a comment that was about something I was talking about while you were out, but it fits exactly what you were just saying. He says he votes for worrying about what he can control on his plate. And that is very true. People worry about all this stuff that they can't control. And I don't understand why. And I get it that it's not the best thing in the world because you could be stressed or anxious about this one event or something that might happen in the future, but that means that you're not living in the present.
Mm.
And I like how you said you were depressed for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people aren't able to escape it in 2 hours. So how exactly would you say that you were able to accomplish such a thing in just 2 hours?
I think it's I've always had a kind of inner resilience to be able to approach these things. Um, I can't quantify where it came from. It's just kind of innate in me, whether it's to do with my mother's upbringing, when I was there, whether it's to do with my faith in myself, whether it is to do with the faith I have in higher powers, and I won't necessarily go into that. I know not everybody's interested in that, but I it's very much about self determination. It's about that ability to go, I have to be able to overcome this. I have to be able to get through this, or I have to find a way to live with this. And that's how I had approached the illness before this kind of turn of events. Was it was right? Okay, how do I live with this? How do I find the tools to help me in terms of the various, different types of oxygen support and breathing support? How do I find things that lessen the impact of dust and environmental factors on my ability to breathe and not get infection? So I've always taken that approach of, right, okay, what do I need to put together to be able to get through this, to continue to be able to do the things I want to do? And ultimately, I've ended up whereby I've had to change some of the things that were previously important to me in my career and work and various other things, and decide those aren't important anymore. What's important is being here, being present, and contributing. And so now, even though I still work full time, and I absolutely do, I had a wonderful recovery, and I've been very blessed. I think not only from the care I've received, but also from the gift from my donor. And that's a whole other story about my donor, because I found out a little bit about him and from his family, and I am convinced that he and I are genetic brothers. So that's the only reason scientifically I can work out that I've had such a positive reaction to this gift that he gave me.
That's that's so amazing. And guys, if you're not an organ donor, go out there and sign up to be an organ donor because it helps so many people. Well, there are so many people that are on the list that never get that. And you were lucky enough to get that. So how well, all right. So I don't believe luck is an actual thing, but
Mm.
so how I don't know how to ask this without saying luck. So, how lucky do you feel that you were able to get one when so many other people don't get one? And did you feel guilty about getting one?
Um, I've thought about that, and I've interviewed other lung transplant recipients, and I've interviewed some donor families about how do they feel about where their loved one's gift went, and do they have any sense of that? And I think that the majority of people don't have necessarily. They have to compartmentalize that idea of the good fortune. Almost every transplant recipient I've spoken to, whether lung transplant or otherwise, feels immensely lucky to have had the opportunity, because the proportion of people waiting for a donated organ for a transplant versus the people who actually receive is out of all order of proportion. So therefore, there are significantly more people waiting than there are available organs and capacity in the health systems to transplant them. Here in the States, we're quite lucky. Some of the other Western countries are quite lucky. Japan and Korea, there's reasonable, but there's some parts of the world whereby they don't have the infrastructure even to undertake this medical science to do this, far less the donors to give it. But I think that in terms of me feeling lucky beyond that, you you do have to get to a point, and other survivors have told me this as well. You get to a point whereby you say, I accept that I have been chosen, been lucky, whatever you might want to describe it. There is a scientific process here in the US as to how they try to allocate. There's the method and the scoring that they go through to try and allocate it. But even within that, I become acutely ill quite quickly. That actually, increased that score. The fact that I was otherwise healthy increased the score. The fact that I was already on very, very advanced life support increased my score and my chance of being able to receive. So there is a process that goes through, and there's, even in the medical community, there is some consternation and debate about whether that scoring is correct, and should it be people who have been waiting longer, and how should you try and weight this. So there's a lot of ethical debate there, because there aren't enough organs for all of the people who could potentially benefit from them. So I take the luck. There's other parts of my life where I could say I haven't been as lucky. I've never won anything more than $10 on a lottery in the entirety of my life. So I look at those kind of things and go there. But by God, he chose to give me the luck when I really needed it, and that was when
Yeah.
my life was on the line.
Yeah. And that's when it honestly mattered. So, and that's pretty amazing. So I'm curious, what would you tell somebody else that is going through something? Now it might be medical, and it
Mhm.
might be something they can't control, or it might be something they can control somewhat. And what would you tell that person?
I think the comment from earlier on, I can't remember who it was that said it, is you control what you control. You and,
Yeah.
and accept. I love Kipling's If. I think it's such a great poem where he talks about, if you can face adversity and challenges, and still, stare them in the face and be able to live your life. I think those kind of thoughts are incredibly important as you're kind of looking at your challenges. A lot of people, in my experience, and I've helped friends who have been struggling, perhaps through relationship problems, through family and financial problems, through problems with their kids, whatever it might be. And I often frequently tell them, even before this encounter, you can only control what you can control. And so therefore, what can you do? And the second thing is, sometimes, a bit like myself, you get so wrapped up in being a servant to the people who are important to you that you forget to be selfish enough to look after yourself. And so in my case, I could only look after those other people that I loved and wanted to care for if I took the time to look after myself. And so I think that's one of the big adjustments I've made through this process is I have to continue to look after the person, Stuart Miller, to be able to then continue to share and contribute. The second thing is, when you're faced with this opportunity that you receive, you get lucky enough to receive this gift, you reevaluate, well, why? Why am I here? What was the reason this happened? And I think we all search for reason in life.
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me? When you're hit with adversity, your car crash, for example, and other people's challenges. And I think you have to use that question to then turn around and turn it into purpose. What's the purpose that this was gifted to me?
Wow. So that is actually something that I tend to tell parents about, because so many parents out there say that their kids have so much going on, they don't have time to take care of themselves. And it's like, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. I get that. But at the same time, if you don't take care of you, who is going to take care of them once you're gone? Because life is not guaranteed for any of us. And as you can attest, things happen. We
Mm,
don't necessarily expect these things. And I have to give you credit because you have definitely put a lot of thought into these questions, your answers, and you have worked extremely hard on your mindset. And I absolutely love that. That is amazing. And I have to say that is probably what actually saved you in the long run, because
mm,
without that mindset, you wouldn't be anywhere right now. You would still be letting other people take care of you when you needed to take care of them. But the thing was, you needed to take care of yourself first. A lot of people don't get that.
mm.
And I find that to be amazing. So let's have you ever written a book or tried to do anything to give that knowledge that you have within you to other people?
Well, I think I have been inspired to write often and never really embraced it, and that's one of the things that has changed since I received this gift. Is that I always put it off as too busy with career, too busy making money, too busy looking after the family, and all of the drama that goes along with it. And one of the things that has happened since, and I discussed it a lot with my daughter. My daughter is very much like me. My son, who's older, is very much like his mother, personality wise. And my daughter said to me one day, you know, you're so good at talking. You've been in sales. You've yeah, you have the ability to tell a story. Why don't you tell your story? And I went, oh yeah, I know, but I'm busy. And I went, no, just don't be busy. So we started a podcast together, like yourselves. And it's very focused much more on a business community. But in October of last year, we actually took the opportunity to tell my story in an episode. And then I reached out and interviewed three other lung transplant survivors and interviewed them. So there's a batch of podcast episodes that are available on Haverin About on YouTube or Apple. Just Haverin, HAVERIN ABOUT. And off of the back of that, I started writing on Substack. And I write about all kinds of things. A lot of it is work related. Some of it is personal anecdotes. I've written about my lung transplant story there too. Um, but I have found the inspiration to actually stop and try and commit in that way. And hopefully, my writing will become solid enough that I can actually convert something into a book one day. But for now, I'm happy being an oral storyteller. That's pretty fun to me, which is why I love that you are engaged in this format of sharing stories with your audience.
Yes, that is awesome. So, do you happen to have any contact information you would like to give out to people?
I think it would be continue to search for stories. And some stories might be for you, some stories won't. I feel that way about television shows. I see people, getting very wrapped up about television stories or things they might see. And my attitude is continue to search. There's always a point of connection out there for everybody, and try and reach out and try and find a way to participate. And not everybody wants to be the storyteller. Some people only want to be the listener, the watcher, whoever that might be. And it's very easy, particularly when you put yourself in the public gaze, for people to criticize. I would say never, ever criticize somebody who's telling a story. If it's not for you, that's okay. But there are people out there that I know that I've reached and spoken to who have felt moved enough to be able to take on board some of what I'm trying to communicate in this story, and being able to embrace that and move forward. And for other people, they've gone, yeah, not for me. But don't disparage the storyteller. You know, at the end of the day, if it's not for you, you can find one of a million other channels out there on YouTube or anywhere else, or on Facebook, and find the stories that suit you. But definitely keep searching for people who inspire, stories that inspire you, stories that reach you emotionally. So that's the main thing I would say in terms of, you know, what people should do to try and seek inspiration. And some people like old stories. I love old stories, you know, from Scottish culture, from the Bible, from various other places, other cultures. I love learning about Asian culture, and from there, and I take inspirations from some of those places too.
That's awesome. So, if, all right, after this show, how can people get a hold of you if they want to?
Oh, sure. Well, I think that the great thing is havering is a good Scottish word that means to talk nonsense. It If you have heard the Proclaimers song "Walk 500 Miles," in that they talk about havering. If I haver, I want to be the man who's havering with you. That's referencing the word. I picked that up as my branding, and I've used it for a couple of decades now. So you can find me either at Haverin About, HAV for Victor, ERIN About, on YouTube. You can find it on the audio podcast with my daughter. If you want to read any of my writings, as I say, it's very much focused on medicine, medical technology, and the use of AI in medicine and those kind of things. But you can find my Substack out there with the same branding with Haver and About. And for anyone else, those channels are represented on Facebook, on YouTube. You should be able to find it pretty easily if you search for me.
So, HAVERIN about ABOUT
Correct.
.com. Is it .com?
No, if you search on YouTube, I don't have a website up at the
Oh,
moment. But
all right.
if you search there, and anybody professionally, you can find me on LinkedIn as Stuart Miller, and then if you add Haverin, you'll find me in the search bar. So I'm pretty accessible, and I'm happy to share those links with you, Jeff, to share with your audience.
Yes. Well, I did put Haver and about in the comments there on YouTube. So we want to say, well, I want to say especially thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to be here with me and my peeps. And I sincerely appreciate it. Guys out there, I hope you learned something. I hope you took something away from what Stuart here told us. But I need everybody out there, including you, Stuart, to do me a favor this week, next week, and for the rest of your life. I need you to make every second count. Why? Because you never know when those seconds will run out on your one life. I'll see you guys back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, you have a great week. Thanks again, Stuart. Have a great night.
Thank you, Jeff.